Good evening and welcome. Try that again.
It's not good.
Tonight's starting lineup, yeah. Good evening and welcome to this Thursday, March 21st, 2024 meeting of the Finance Committee. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Tonight we'll be following the published and posted agenda. We are in a dual format, so we are both available in Zoom and in person. First item on the agenda this evening is approval of minutes. We have minutes from March 14th. Has everyone had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
Go ahead, Sam, you're good at it.
I move to approve the Finance Committee minutes from last week's meeting,
14th.
the 14th of March.
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next, before we move into our next agenda item, I'd like to welcome a new member of our Finance Committee, Elaine McDonald. Thank you and welcome. You appointed just this week, correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, welcome to the group. We'll try not to be too hard on you and throw too much information at you.
I have a lot of reading to do.
All right, moving right along in the agenda, we have a review of the fiscal year 25 budget for the Chelmsford Public School District. With us this evening, we have Superintendent Jay Lang, we have the Business Manager, Joanna Johnson-Collins, and members of the, well, actually, I don't, is she here this evening? Yes,
Donna's here.
Donna's here. I was asking if Joanna's here. No, okay. All right, and members of the Chelmsford School Committee. Good evening.
Do you want to look at my book with me? He sent me a bunch of things.
Good evening, Finance Committee members. Thank you for having us again to review our budget for this coming fiscal year, fiscal 25. I did reply when we got the meeting link, and I attached a copy of the link that just brings you to the fiscal 25 budget. As way of process, we've kept this pretty consistent year over year. So at the first meeting in February, the first school committee meeting in February, I typically present the superintendent's recommended budget with different programs and services that we have planned for the coming school year. We then take a couple weeks to review the budget, and then at the last meeting in February, the school committee members go page by page through the budget and ask questions about our spending and how it aligns to our strategic plan. And ultimately, the school committee voted to adopt the budget that I had recommended at that meeting, and that's what's here before you this evening. So just as way of process for you, again, we've kept the format similar year over year. So our budget is set in the beginning. We have a narrative that talks about our programs and services and how we compare against other comparable districts. We then, on page 10 of our budget, have what we call our summary level totals. So this is the kind of calculation page that has all the different DESI function code pages feed up to it. We have our staff salary book, and then we have a number of appendices that just have information that talk a little bit about our budget and programming. I did have an opportunity earlier in the week to meet with Dave and Kathy, the Finance Committee reps to the school department, and review our budget in detail. I certainly can go as deep as you would like, or I could provide more kind of high-level action for you. It's at your discretion. Just, do you want me to kind of go real high level? And then if you have questions, we can go deeper, or how would you like me to proceed?
I think typically we've gone on a high-level review because we've had the opportunity to look at the budget ourselves, and because, quite frankly, you have budget line autonomy.
We don't like to throw that out there.
Well, I do.
So high level for you. So if you happen to be following along, if you wanted to pop to page 7 of the budget is crafted in general with the school department strategic plan in mind. We had spent a considerable amount of time putting together a 5-year plan that details our academic priorities, our SEL priorities, staffing and human capital priorities, facilities. So our budget really does align to those priorities in the district. The school committee, when they have their regular meetings, talk about the different priority areas and, again, how our financing supports those. Worked closely with the town. The town's been a great partner with us in providing a quality education to our students. The bottom line recommendation of this budget, and again, happy to answer any individual questions you may have, aligns with Town Manager Cohen's recommendation of funding to the school department at $73,880,000. And on page 7 at the bottom, these are again just some bullets that kind of give some highlights of the budget. But one of the things that we are fortunate going into next year, we're going into the third and final year of our contracts at the school department. So all of our employee contracts, both collective bargaining agreements and individual contracts, are in place. It makes our budgeting a little easier because we know exactly what the salary schedules are going to be when we're doing our staff salary book. We typically have been fortunate when we're doing replacement of staff. We have a very stable workforce of about the 375 teachers we have in the district. We have 9 retirements this year. We don't have a lot of turnover, so we really attract and I think retain a great workforce in our schools. It makes the hiring process easier for us. Hiring teachers is very difficult at this time, but when you look at districts around us, hiring 9 as opposed to hiring 25 or 50 is certainly significant. I credit our workforce for that. We've traditionally found that budgeting the replacement, because there's always a little bit of a savings from typically a top step teacher being replaced by a newer teacher, averaging a master's step 3, which actually for us this year went over $70,000, so that's $71,000, which is a pretty attractive salary for a new individual coming in. We've been able to budget to that. So we've included that in the budget again because our contracts have settled. The next page, 8, just kind of provides some higher level detail of some additional staffing and services that we're incorporating in primarily 2 areas. So we have 2 different priority areas in our budget. One related to special education services, and a lot of work the district is doing to try to close the achievement gap of our special education students and our general education students. So you will see that we have added a number of special education teaching positions and support positions within our district. All of those positions and services are tied to individual students' education plans. So the students have gone through a review process. They've gone through the whole IEP process. Teams have recommended certain levels of service for students, and we really do need to staff the district accordingly to that. I'm also proud of the work that the district has done to really develop a lot of what we call in-district programs. So we really have been well servicing the students in Chelmsford in our schools. A lot that may present with different learning abilities and disabilities. We've been able to actually add some programming to over the last number of years and really keep those kids in district and have them be, again, a part of our community, which we're proud of doing. So you will see, again, a number of special education support positions. One, we do have a program. We did the middle school realignment this year. We fully implemented that. So now all of our middle school students in grades 5 and 6 attend Parker Middle School, and then they move on to McCarthy Middle School for grades 7 and 8. We traditionally have a continuum of programming in the district, K through 12, and it just so happened when we did the realignment this past year that because of the age of the students and the grades that they were in, we didn't have a need for an ASD program, an autism program at Parker Middle School. We have one actually now at Byam and Harrington, and they're both very well subscribed in the district. And we happen to have a cohort moving up to 5th grade for next year. So we do need to add that complementary program for grades 5 and 6. We already have it in grades 7 and 8 and at the high school. But this one year when we did the realignment, we just didn't have 5th and 6th grade students that needed that. So we do have the additional ASD programming built into that. And again, as I mentioned, just a number of special education positions to help support the IEPs, our ratios for services, and I think, again, the community will be well served by implementing that. A second priority area for us around academics is really trying to put an effort into our elementary mathematics program. We implemented a new literacy program in the district about 4 years ago, going into year 5 at the elementary level. And we're really starting to see our literacy and reading scores improve. That's, again, been a tremendous amount of work of our teachers really getting up to speed with the program and the training, the professional development. And we've noticed as we were doing our strategic planning, our math scores just aren't quite where we'd like them to be, particularly at the younger grade levels. So one of the things that we want to do is implement a kind of a mathematics coaching model at the elementary school level. So this budget does include 2 mathematics kind of intervention specialists to specifically be working with our teaching staff. So a lot of times we have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of kind of pulling our teachers out of the classroom to go attend professional development and training and things like that. But that is time that they then spend away from their kids that we like them to be instructing. By having these 2 coaches kind of split among the 4 elementary schools. These will be the experts to go out and kind of get all of the training and whatnot, then bring it back into the classrooms, provide the PD directly with the teachers, do a lot of coaching and actual kind of co-teaching with the teachers, and that's going to help us with our mathematics focus at the elementary level, we're hoping. So that is also included in the budget. Aside from that, I do have a couple of bullets, things that haven't changed. We've actually found our day-to-day sub rates for both teachers and paras and clerical support staff are very competitive with our Merrimack Valley colleagues. One neighboring city happened to use a lot of their ESSA funds, and they really increased their rates that just no one in our area can compare with. Next year, they're coming back down to more normal rates, so I think we're actually number 1 or 2 when it comes to rates in that area. So again, we should be competitive on that front. We did implement 6 years ago at this point a one-on-one computer initiative at our school so that all of our students, because again, we actually were fortunate to have done this going into COVID. We didn't know COVID was going to happen. But by actually doing the legwork and having our curriculum begin to be digitized and having our kids be familiar with using online resources and learning opportunities, that really did position us well when COVID hit. So we're at the point now, we're on a 4-year recycle, but all of our incoming 5th and then all of our incoming 9th grade students are issued a district laptop, and they then keep that for the 4 years, and they turn it over. But that's been great. Also, so that we know everyone has the same technology, they all have the same access to the technology, and again, that's proven well. So overall, those are really just the 2 priority areas for us, where you will see a little bit of a extra investment in the budget for this coming year, primarily special education, and then again, that little push at the elementary school for math. But one of the things, as you read through the budget, I'm sure you notice we've got good feedback on. We'll make little notes on the individual budget pages if something kind of jumps up, or if we think someone's going to have a question about something, we try to head it off ahead of time in the document and include those notes. But everything as we've done before is consistent. You have a staff salary book that feeds up to the main budget book, so you can actually look at your FTEs and you can look at your costs. And then in the end, we have several appendices. One I know we've been talking about, and we're going to continue to talk about with regard to schools and enrollment. We definitely have an enrollment increase, not only happening now, but our projection, and the school committee is going to hear a report at their meeting next Tuesday from NESDEC. They've come back in to do a more detailed demographic enrollment study for us over the next 10 years, because we're going to need that to help with the MSBA application. But we are projected to increase by about 800 students over the next 10 years. So that is significant. And we really do not have the space within the district to really accomplish what we need to do with that constraint. You do have another appendice at the end of the book that is all about grants and revolving funds and whatnot. Again, just in full transparency to put that out there. I'm very happy with the budget that we put together this year that the school committee reviewed and ultimately supported and approved. Happy to have met with Dave and Kathy to review it more in detail, but happy to answer any questions you have here this evening. And then ultimately look forward to presenting in April. I think it's a good continued expansion of our programming. I think it's in line with the town's and schools' ability to fund. And really, again, appreciate your support and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just want to say we appreciate your time sitting with us, and also the layout of the budget is, excellent to be able to find out details, and it's available to anybody who wants to look online.
It is. Excuse me. It is posted to our website, so right off the front page, and then in the business, I think it's business and finance page itself, we have all the historical budgets. So if you go in, you can get the full detail.
Jay, we're starting the MSBA process right now. When do you envision having more detailed meetings coming up?
It's funny that you ask. Next Thursday evening, we're actually going to host, so the school committee has been talking regularly about this, and there's been a lot of work that's been happening behind the scenes. We've been doing updates to the school committee meetings, so people that watch those have a sense of what's happening. But we have heard from some people who may not be quite as tied to the schools. They may not have kids anymore, or might be newer to the community. They're starting to inquire about the project. So the school committee and I will be hosting a public forum and informational session a week from today, actually the 28th. at McCarthy Middle School in the auditorium. I'm going to do a soup to nuts run through of kind of how we got to where we are. The current phase that we're in with the MSBA is called eligibility. That's a 9-month program that's officially going to start on April 1st, and then it will conclude right at the end of the calendar year. We would hope to then move into feasibility, and that is about a 1.5 to potentially 2-year process. So I'm going to lay out the whole timeline, talk about the need for the program, talk again about how this ties into the long 10-year plan for the district with regard to our enrollment, and talk about a number of different options that the community will look at when we actually get into eligibility and feasibility a little bit further this fall and summer. We are going to tape the meeting. Chelmsford Telemedia is going to record it for anyone that doesn't attend. And I will send a link, because one of our first steps is likely going to be to go to town meeting in April to try to get support for the feasibility phase, which technically won't kick in until the fall. So even if approved, it wouldn't be expended or bonded until that particular time. But I want to make sure that all the town meeting reps really know about this process, because it is in depth. So after we have the session and we have the link to the meeting, they're going to get an individual email invite from me. But I'll also forward out a copy of the video, just so that they can watch ahead of time going into the town meeting. The video to kind of get the background. On our district website, we also have a new page we created just to track progress on this particular project. So if you go to the district website, I believe it's called MSBA Parker Middle School Project, but it's right on the front page. And that has all the documents associated with this. So we're really hoping by pushing that, our communications director is periodically putting out little stories about what this will mean for our community. But I do think it's going to actually be helpful at the information session next week to talk about this, to answer questions, but again, to have that recording so that we can play that and really kind of make sure that no one has an excuse to say that they didn't know what was happening, that they understand the project, the process that we're going to be going through, because it is a long process. We definitely want to have community input through this process, and that really is inherently built into the eligibility and the feasibility stage. So there's going to be a lot of dialogue, a lot of room for people to come and talk about what they'd like to see, not only building-wise, but program-wise. You know, what kind of programmatic spaces do we need to consider when we're talking about building a new school, you know, in the 21st century? Our schools are very solid buildings. You know, the town has done a very good job of maintaining the buildings. We haven't built a new school in over 50 years, though. So I'm really hoping the town will come around and support this. I want to make sure everyone has the information that they need. A lot of time and effort has gone into this, but I think we've positioned ourselves well to be able to talk to the community about this and, again, show the need, not only because of the facilities, but we have an enrollment matter that we really do need to address over the coming years.
Thank you for answering that. We will be here next week, so I'm glad to hear that it'll be emailed out and recorded and available. And any information you'd like us to include to help you in starting that process, we can certainly include links to that kind of information in the Finance Committee book.
Great.
As part of the fact that you're giving a presentation under Article 1, I believe. Certainly an appropriate place to put those links to provide that information to people.
Great. No, I very much appreciate
So
it.
please send that to us. We'll make sure it's included.
Will do.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you for an excellent review the other day.
No, I had a lot of fun. You know, it's nice to just be able to sit back and kind of, you know, go through the budget and talk about individual programs and the services and why we do them. So, no, you and Kathy were super and asked really good questions, and I hope I had good answers for you.
You did.
But it's always nice to talk about what we're doing.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
And Donna, thank you for attending as well. Moving along, we have, I've had a request to take one of the presentations out of order due to other time constraints, the Health Department budget. I would need a vote to take it out of order, but I would also need a motion to do that as well.
Yep. I'd make a motion to take the Health Department out of order.
Have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. This evening, we have a presentation of the Health Department budget with us this evening. We have Sue Rosa, our Health Director, and the Assistant Director, Donna Greenwood.
Good evening, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Sue Rosa, the Health Director, and Donna is our Assistant Director. She's handing out information on what we're going to talk about. Although for most of you, you know that I've just returned to work after a significant time away. So during budget time, Donna and I did do the budget together, but then we had to make some changes, and she's done a phenomenal job, so I am actually going to let her talk about our budget.
Good evening, and first I want to say thank you for Sue for coming back, and it's great to have her back and being doing so great. All right, so good evening. Thank you all for your time tonight. First, I want to thank Anita for her time the other day with Sue and I. We enjoyed your company and conversations. As you know, we're actually lucky enough to have received ARPA funds from the Select Board, and we were able to hire an additional health inspector at the time and a human services associate under those ARPA funds. It made a huge difference. It was a huge focus that we had on some goals that we wanted to accomplish, and we were able to accomplish those. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about them, and then we go into the budget, because you're going to see the salary jump in there, and I want to kind of discuss through that piece of it. So the salary jump that you see is $141,143, and I'm sure you saw that and said, what's kind of this all about? So when we had the additional health inspector under the ARPA funds, we were able to actually inspect all of our restaurant and retail facilities that are supposed to be inspected twice a year by the state guidelines. And in high-risk restaurants, the recommendation is 3. So we were able to accomplish that.
What is a high-risk restaurant?
A high-risk restaurant is one that, when we go to them, they have violations maybe a couple times in a row. And so we then determine they're a high risk. We need to continue to go to them at least 3 times. And whenever there's a violation, we go back and follow up anyway. So we have 177 food establishment restaurants that we have to inspect. So literally last year, we did over 350 inspections in total for just food establishment places. So many of them get 2 or 3 just because it's a follow-up. But high-risk restaurants are ones that from our past 2 years have been ones that needed follow-up inspections. So that's how we determine it. And as they change and get better, it can shift on what that looks like.
So is it multiple categories, or just you're good or high risk?
Well, yeah, high-risk restaurants will be the ones that are foodborne illness violations. So there's literally, and you can look at any of our inspections, the state inspection form. The front page is all foodborne illness. The second page is expected retail establishment standards that they need to meet. So anyone that is a foodborne illness violation is an issue in itself, and we go back and re-inspect. We do have fines assigned to each of those violations in town, and we kind of go through that. We're at the point that we only have 3 this past year that ended up being high risk going into this coming fiscal year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So like I said, with that, this was the first year we were able to meet the state requirements of 2 inspections per year, 3 for the high-risk ones that we have determined that are there. So, and then as you know, the inspectors also do nuisance complaints, housing complaints, complaints across the board, the beaches and all that type of thing. So with that, we were able to accomplish every goal. Every complaint was adhered to within 48 hours based on that. So that was under the health inspector. So when you look at the human services associate / social worker, we were able to come up with a lot of programs that were around mental health. As you know, it's an epidemic in the country for mental health issues. In your folders that I had given you, I also put in there the PowerPoint that I had presented at the Select Board meeting, which was the update on all of the ARPA funds, money that we used and what we did with those. So if you take a look, as I had mentioned about the inspectional services, you'll see that on the first couple of pages on what we were able to kind of overcome and be able to make sure that we don't have anyone getting ill in our town. There were an additional 232 inspections, which included animal inspections, pool inspections, summer camps, tanning salons, body art. This year, with there being a housing at the Best Western, we had to do over 150 inspections there, too. 85 complaints, which resulted in 106 inspections. We created a food safety class so that we were able to teach all of these restaurants some of the violations that they were having. It was a free class they could come to and have any of their new employees go. I won't go in all the detail. I know this is kind of the overview of why we're requesting that the health inspector continues and becomes a part of the staff, so that we can continue to meet all those standards. And as you kind of go through it, we can talk about what we were able to do with the associate that's under the Human Services. The ARPA funds for that position will continue through December 2024. So for 6 months, we still have another ARPA funds for that, well, till December at this point. We're looking for the additional 6 months for that person to become full part of the staff, so that we can continue all these programs. So you can peek through that. We were able to come up with, there's so many more programs that we've been establishing with this Human Services associate that we have. She becomes a licensed social worker, graduates actually in April, then needs to take her test, and then will be a full-blown social worker. A lot of these programs that we've had that she is leading and holding and creating for us, we've needed to get grant funding to be able to pay for those social workers to come and attend with her. With being able to keep her on our staff, we will not have to continue to go after grant funding. And what happens once you get a grant funding, you're not going to get another grant to continue that same program. So we have support groups already started for adults under anxiety and depression. That's been ongoing, great program that's going on. We have one starting this month at McCarthy Middle School that's going to be an after-school program for children. We just had our event last Tuesday that was teaching tweens to cope with worry, stress, and anxiety. And we had parents coming up to us asking, could we start that same program that we're starting in McCarthy at Parker? So hopefully, yes, we'll be able to continue doing that as long as we're able to keep this Human Services / social worker on our employee staff. Any questions on salaries? Absolutely.
Is a position that we share with the police department. So Marissa works in our department, she works a couple days a week at the police department, and we have a lot of cases in town that we do share with police, and it's been a fantastic partnership.
Yeah, what that's actually been able to help us do is, we have our inspectional services that we get called from the police department to go do if it's a hoarding case, when they get called on a medical, and then we go out, we get called, and now we have a hoarding case, and now it's an inspectional piece of it, right? And quite frankly, right now, we had 8 that were under an order that couldn't go back to their homes. We've been able to get that to, 2 have been able to go back home, and there's 6 that still can't. And the way we've been able to do that is being able to have the mental health services, which is this human service associate, working with that person, getting them all the services that they need through the hoarding age span, all of those different things, because it's a mental health illness when it comes to hoarding. So being able to have inspectional services and having that human services associate, together we're being able to pull that together, help the people stay in their homes. So that's just one example of
Can I
idea.
ask a quick question about that? So they can't stay in the home because it's a danger to themselves, or is it affecting their neighbors as well?
It's a danger to themselves. So any of the ones that we've gotten called to and been able to go and work with the police and the fire department, it's the ones we're working with now, it's such unsanitary conditions and hoarding conditions that it is not safe for that person to stay in their home.
But to the point that it hasn't affected the neighborhood, like the
It's been
abutting
internal.
neighbors,
Yeah, it's been internal. We haven't had any that have affected the neighborhoods.
And if someone can't stay in their house, where do they go?
That's what our Human Services Associates helps them with, right?
Okay.
So, and we have a program with the Best Western right now that between us and the police department, if we have an emergency situation that we need to house somebody, we have so many nights that they give us free that we can put them there until we can get them into another program. So there was one lady that, I won't go into too much detail with it, but literally the house was in a reverse mortgage situation, and it wasn't under her name. We have her in housing at the Best Western, and literally within 4 weeks, we have her in with the housing department, and she's got an apartment that she's moving into April 1st.
Oh.
So we can get things to turn around pretty quickly for some. Some it takes a little bit longer. If they want to go back into their home, it takes a little bit longer because it's got to be a clean out and all of those. If it's others that are looking to sell, their property, we can get them into housing a little bit faster. Depends on the situation, they're all so different.
Well, thank you for taking
welcome.
care of people.
Yes. Any other
Just to
questions?
note, we've never had this many. In all the years I've
Yeah.
worked in Chelmsford, the last 2 years, we've had more places that we've had to condemn. And it's, I attribute it to the fallout of COVID, the loneliness, the mental health impact. And we also do teach a class, it's a 15-week class on how to declutter. And we've had a good uptake for that class as well.
Yeah, that's in this PowerPoint too, if you take a look at it. So we try to prevent, so we have these things that we find out that we're dealing with, and we try to come up with programs that prevent that issue, which is what Sue was talking about. We've got all these cases, how can we help prevent it so that when they get to a point that they need medical services because of, and it's mostly elderly, get to that point so we can help them. Anything else on the salary part of it? No? Okay. All right, so on the expense part, just a little bit of an increase here. For vehicle maintenance, we're requesting an increase of just $400. The second car that we do use was a carpool for the town. It's being moved into the health department, so we just need a slight increase on that one. We're decreasing the gas line by $1,000 because we have electric car. And then in the mosquito, where we want to increase it $1,000, that's because of the cost of the larvicide and all of that, and the helicopter to have that sprayed. And then an increase in mileage of $400, and that's because of the programs that we run. We're off-site running those programs. So really what you're looking at is, in the expense line, a total of $800 increase. Any questions?
You still had a category for newspaper advertisement.
Yeah, actually, we
Is that
do.
like a viable option anymore? I don't know.
Well, actually, it's coming up on us now, yes. So we were going to decrease that a little bit, but we actually, anytime that we have a specific regulations that we need to update, we do have to put it into the newspaper at least twice prior, and it's going to be 2 weeks before that hearing, and we do need to use that.
It's still a legal requirement, and that's why it's there.
Yeah.
that's-
And yes, there are less options to do it, and unfortunately, that means that also it's more expensive to do it because there's less options to do it, so.
Right.
We'll be putting an ad in within the next.
We will be putting one in.
For the lopsiding.
Okay.
It's a legal
It's a
requirement?
legal requirement, it's statutory. You have to provide notice, that's the notice that the Commonwealth requires, and it's still,
Yeah.
legal advertisement's one of the main, I would say, advertisement money makers for papers at this point.
It's probably the only
because-
thing keeping them alive.
Yeah, I just,
Thank you.
so that's why.
Yeah. Great question, though, right? Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that is all set. Donna, thank you very much for all
Thank
your
you.
work,
All right.
and Sue, it's great to see you back.
Yes. Yeah.
I appreciate you letting me go early, I didn't get tired.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, moving along, next on our agenda, we have a review of the fiscal year 25 budget for the fire department. With us this evening is Chief Gary Ryan.
Nicely.
I'm gonna be tough on this one.
I know you are. I know you are. Thank you.
Well, I skipped my spot, so I was told I didn't even have to present. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I see you got my presentation.
What's up?
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Chairman and my liaison, thank you. Board members, welcome to the new member. So, hope everybody's well. Next slide, please. So look at our current state for fiscal '25. We currently have 60 uniform members. I say 60. We had one vacant position due to retirement in December. Currently, we have 2 members that are going through the Mass Fire Academy. They are scheduled to graduate in May. And in fiscal '25, we will seek to restore all those positions. For fiscal '25, I'm proposing a budget of $7,501,944. On the personnel side, a budget of $6,823,044, or 8.95% increase. That increase reflects the labor agreement that we settled on back in June. On the expense side, a budget of $678,900, or probably the equivalent of the health department budget in its entirety. That's a 3.85% increase. If you remember last year, the increase was a little larger, but the main drivers remain the same. Vehicle maintenance, building maintenance, fire equipment repairs. Those 3 categories are driving that expense line item. So an overall budget increase of 8.47%. That maintains our existing staffing levels at 63.5, 61 uniform members and 2.5 staff. And if you have any questions, please ask. Next slide is our organizational chart. We have 4 groups or units, as we call them, each managed by a company officer with 13 firefighters assigned to each unit. We have 2 officers in the fire prevention office, 1 in training, and of course the important administrative support staff that keeps the department running, and 1 mechanic that maintains our fleet. So my thanks to all the hard work that they do to keep this department running. Next slide, please.
Can I just ask a quick question about staffing? Just given the size of our community and, is the staffing, comparative to other communities, or adequate staffing for the size of our community, I guess?
So we're serving on a committee, and we'll have a update to the town meeting in April, but we are looking at that. So
Yep.
we're looking at comparable communities that's been brought in, how Chelmsford compares. So that, all that's been looking at, so I don't want to take away from that.
Okay.
But it is a component of that, so I'm not trying to avoid your question.
Okay, no, that's great. I'll pay attention then.
Good, thank you. So
Before.
I'm
I'm going to leave a little bit of a surprise for you,
just in time.
so. But the committee's been meeting for over 2 years, and so. So this is a look at, we have 5 stations that are strategically positioned for optimal response times. This is a look at a typical staffing configuration. So in the fire headquarters, we typically will have 1 captain with 2 firefighters. Up north at Engine 2, we would have 3 assigned. Engine 3 is the west station with 2. Over at Engine 4 to east, we would have 2 firefighters. And Engine 5 down south, we will have 2. That leaves a typical staffing configuration of a captain and 11 firefighters. Next slide, please. Taking a look at our station locations this past December, we celebrated the 9th anniversary of our fire headquarters next door. Also, in the same month of December, same day, by the way, we celebrated the 2-year mark of our new building at Engine 2. So, very happy with that. Engine 3 over at Old Westford Road was built in 1970. Engine 4 is 47 years old. And Engine 5 is now our oldest station, built in 1966. And again, that's something that Fire Station Study Committee is also looking at. It's not just staffing, but it's also stations.
What's going on at Engine, the one on Princeton Street? It looked like there was scaffolding, or there was some sort of construction going on?
Yeah, we're adding on to the building. We're going to increase the height of the building.
Oh.
No, I'm only kidding. No, we have it's well known. We have a veneer issue with the building. We actually met, the manager was there today. So that siding on that building, because of the issue we have with that, will actually be coming down. We're actually looking at options to replace it. It was just a defect in the brick veneer building. For some reason, it didn't work. If you remember back in 2017 when we did the schools, they had brick veneer. No problem with that. Kids are throwing balls against it. The bricks will hold up fine. But this, whatever the product that we used here, just did not work. So we are working with the vendor to address this issue.
Is that under warranty?
It's being addressed yet, under warranty. Yes.
Thank you.
That's all he really cared about.
Yes, there we go. Yes.
Cut through the chase, I
There we
guess.
go. I should have known, that's yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. So, next slide, please. So for 2023, we saw an overall increase in our responses. We averaged 530 calls a month. This is a breakdown for each month. As you can see, November was our busiest month with 588 calls. However, the busiest single day was that storm that rolled through back in September, September 8th, struck through the state. We had 53 calls in that day. That's everything from trees down, wires down, alarm activations, very busy day. So we do have spikes like that. Next slide, please. This chart shows 5 years of data. However, 2023, again, we had an increase in calls. We responded to 6,364 responses. Represents a 5.3% increase since last year. Of that, we had a 7.5% increase in our medical responses, notable increases in motor vehicle accidents and public assistance calls. If you go down to the bottom of the chart, mutual aid calls, we actually settled back to the norm. Last year, we saw a spike in our mutual aid responses at 44. Last year, we had 21.
Can I ask about the accidents? I mean, that seems to be a huge spike.
It's a big spike. It's a jump. And I think it's Chelmsford, but we reflect the state. They just had a report on it statewide. You're seeing more accidents out on the roads. I think as people start the communities, businesses are opening up. I know some people still working hybrid, but we're seeing more vehicle traffic out on the roads.
Is it 495 that's?
It's 495 north. It's Route 3. But most of our volume is actually Route 3 north.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I did see something on the news about the amount of accidents happening in the state across the board. It just seems like people forgot how to drive and they're all going
Yeah.
back or something.
Or never knew how to.
Right.
Yes.
So back in COVID, we had fewer vehicles on the road, but we had more serious accidents. Now we got more volume out there, but we're seeing the accidents go up, so. Okay. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So this is a breakout of individual engine companies, so it's been pretty consistent over the years. Coming out of the fire headquarters, that's Engine 1, that's the ladder, the rescue. They responded to over 2,500 calls last year. Engine 2 had over 1,600 calls. Engine 3 had 1,362, followed by Engine 4 with just over 1,000 responses, and then Engine 5 had 937. This is a lot of data, I understand, but it represents over 20 years of fire data. This is stuff that we sent to the state. It looks at different categories of fire, whether it's a structure fire, equipment, stove fire, motor vehicle fire, 20 years of data. If you look at the past 10 years, we average about 27 incidents. If you look over the past 5, we average about 12 structure fires per year. And you let the far right total is the dollar loss, so that totals all the fires, whether it's a vehicle, equipment, or structure fire. Next slide, please. As noted, we saw an increase in medicals. We had a 7.5% increase in medicals. We responded an average of 347 per month. And you can see the November, December, we saw a spike in medical responses. Next slide, please. Typical headline that some of us may have seen back in November, December into January, emergency rooms were getting crushed. This is something that our medical directors in EMS fields are looking at. But one thing that they're focusing is, we talked about mental illness, we're looking at the age as well. According to the UMass Donahue Institute, Massachusetts has shifted towards an older population. We're currently the 17th oldest population in the country. In 2020, 14% of our Mass residents were 65 and older. Our most common patient is female, age 65. That is the average age. For 2050, it's expected to spike to 27% of our residents will be 65 and older. Next slide, please. This is a look at data reflecting the aging issue in the town of Chelmsford as we compare to our neighbors in Drake, in Tewksbury, in Tingsboro, in Barica. So my thanks to Dr. Caitlin Coyle from UMass Boston. We work with her. She compiled this data, her and her team, so they do a good job. If we go to the next slide, Dr. Coyle and her team broke it down to 2010, 2020, and a projection to 2030. As you can see, consistently, Chelmsford has been older not only than Middlesex County, but also older than the state. Aging has led to a notable increase in our EMS responses. We take a look back 10 years. From 2012 to 2022, we had a 3% overall increase in our calls, but we had a 30% increase in medicals. Going back 20 years, going back to 2002, we had a 31% increase in our overall responses, a 96% increase in medicals. This is something that the EMS industry is looking at, and also our medical director at Lowell General, and its impact on services. Next, please. Taking a look at our permit activity, last year, we issued over 1,700 permits, brought in about over $45,000 in fees. We offer permits over 25 different categories, from fire protection systems, tank installation, tank removals, open burning, flammable combustible storage. If you see on that chart in red of note, the smoke carbon monoxide home inspections. When you sell your home, the fire department is required by state law to go in and make sure that you have compliant smoke carbon monoxide detectors. We had a 25% decrease last year. Statewide, there was over a 22% decrease in home sales. That's reflective of whether it's inflation, high prices, low inventory.
Aging in place.
Could you repeat that number for Chelmsford again? It went down, what was the percentage? What happened to?
So for us,
Yeah.
for the inspections, we had a 25% decrease in our inspections. Statewide, according to the Warren Group, there was over a 22% decrease in home sales drops. It's the lowest since 2011.
But, so it's relatively close to the state average then? 20
Exactly, it
yeah,
reflects the
okay.
state average. So,
Slightly larger, but not much.
Yeah,
right, so we're being told, or industry-wide, that the information that we received, if the inflation rates do kind of recede a little bit, and also there's the recent real estate commission settlement that's out there, the thought that's being put out there that it may lower home prices. So that may reflect in additional, but time
Who
will tell.
knows?
Time will tell, correct, so.
You know, it is interesting, if the school enrollment is gonna go up by 800, then you'd think that the population of the town the age of the population is gonna go down because, you're not having kids at 55 and 57.
Who knows?
At a certain point, Kathy, there will be there'll have to be a shift.
Yeah,
When that happens, how it happens, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah.
We have housing going over UMass. We have other housing going other places. A lot of that's apartments. If it comes in the form of apartments, as people come into the town that way and then move into, it's a big question because there's a lot of factors that play into
Yeah.
it. But eventually you will see that tip. It's just a matter of when.
yeah, I agree, I just think it's kinda interesting.
Okay, next slide, please. This is a look at our vehicle staff inventory. A few notable additions. We had a new mechanics vehicle that arrived in December. That is the GMC 2500 for the mechanic. Most notably, and you can see in the picture, is our first all-electric Ford F-150 Lightning truck that is actually at the forum being charged. But my thanks to the manager for his flexibility. We actually had a contract signed for a hybrid version and just would not materialize over a year, just could not get that vehicle. So my thanks to the manager for his flexibility in allowing us to pivot to get this vehicle. It's been very good so far. And last slide, please. Look at our apparatus inventory. This chart reflects the rescue that we received last year thanks to ARPA funds, thanks to the town of Chelmsford. This also shows in red the new engine that we just received in January. Equipment is being mounted on it, training is taking place. And then next month, before town meeting, we have another capital item for another engine that we will be going before the voters before town meeting. But I caution you, we've been told by the vendors that it is 36 to over 42 months before we will see delivery of that vehicle. And that is driven by the emission standards. They have, they're trying to come up with a new diesel engine. And that doesn't just impact us, it impacts DPW, anybody that has trucking large diesel engines. That is the challenge that we all face.
And Chief, so with that, are you seeing increases in the need to keep maintenance on vehicles that would normally be retired sooner or put into the reserve sooner?
I think that correlation is correct. I think you'll see a spike because we have to keep those vehicles. Typically, we would get a vehicle within a year. If we get approval, get the contract, typically within a year, we would see that engine. Now we have to keep that existing engine in place longer. So, yes.
Any questions?
Good review.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm sorry, I do have one, with the aging, in the earlier presentation about the hoarding, since that is starting
Sure.
to dovetail.
Yep.
Are you, is the fire department sometimes the place that goes, Board of Health orders, help?
We work with them. We actually sit with them on the hoarding committee. We have a member, one of our captains is assigned to that hoarding committee, so it is really a collaborative effort. So at a typical hoarding event, it's police, it's fire, it's EMS, it's the Board of Health, it's the building inspector. There's a lot of town resources that are committed to that type of incident, and Donna touched on it, it's very time-consuming too. Very time-consuming for placing a person into housing, even temporarily, and addressing the issue on our end. So that is what I think we all face, public safety, health, building.
Do you have any plans to have anything to explain? I've had hoarders in my family, so I know intimately their thinking, and they always think that it's fine, what's your problem? And I'm like, it's not fine, and if you're found this way, they're gonna make you leave the house.
Right.
And it's, I was trying to get that out there, that you guys, if there's only a little tiny path, you guys can't do your job.
It is very difficult because for the health department in particularly, if it's a life safety issue, we typically get in the house.
Yeah.
It's a little different from the health department because they usually have to get permission from the homeowner.
Right.
We've kind of been able to navigate with that because of people that are on that coalition. They're peer counselors, they're very good at what they do, they're very effective, and they communicate their concerns very well. And typically that gets buy-in, that gets them in the house. So we've had luck with that coalition.
So, but you, given the age and correlation with, was that mentioned earlier by the Board of Health, this hoarding problem, they said it's going up, and the population is going up, so the whole thing's going to go up.
It is, I mean, it's the age, people love this community.
Yeah.
And, and unfortunately, some people, even though we get the message out there, they just don't ask for the help that's available to them. And sometimes it's too late. So the health department's done a great job. Public safety, the building department, the town. This coalition has really done a very good job trying to really get the message out that there's help available out there to connect with these people. And I've seen it. I've been in the houses, and it's you've experienced it. It's very difficult. So you have to have the right touch to persuade these people to seek temporary accommodations while we get the help that they need. But the help is there.
And you've had the homepage notifications that have gone out for those type of meetings. You've had the public on the Chelmsford Town website.
Right.
Seen those. I would recommend that anyone wants to keep abreast of information for the town, sign up for the notifications, get those push notifications on your phone so you know about these events that are happening, not just for this, but for other things that
Sure.
are happening throughout the town.
Absolutely. So that'll help out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I tell you, does a great job.
Next on our agenda this evening, we have a review of the fiscal year 25 budget for the Nashoba Valley Technical School District. And with us this evening, we have the Superintendent Denise Pigeon. With her is the business manager, Michelle Shepard. And there are also members from our town of the Nashoba Valley Technical School District School Committee.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Michelle is passing out 2 handouts. It's a copy of the PowerPoint presentation and also a copy of our full budget book that's also on our website. In addition, there are numerous other financial documents related to the school district that you can find on our website under documents. I know some of this presentation will be a repeat of what you heard at the tri-board meeting, but again, I just want to say that it's a real pleasure to have the opportunity to participate in that tri-board meeting so that we can all be working together as we plan each budget cycle. You can advance to the next slide. Again, as you know, Neshoba Tech is a regional vocational technical school district, and we have 8 member towns, and Chelmsford has been with us since the beginning, and we thank you for that. It continues to be our largest sending town. We have 3 representatives to the school committee, as you know, and an alternate. I'd just like to point out that recently Lawrence McDonald has stepped up and is a member of our Budget and Finance Subcommittee, which is a subcommittee of our school committee. Next slide. Before we talk about the budget, I'd like to just share a little bit about what we do and our purpose. So again, as you know, we provide high-quality Chapter 74 vocational technical education. And the students participate in one of 18 different technical programs, which we cluster into career clusters. And to just let you know where the students of Chelmsford are participating at Neshoba Tech, 40% of your students, or our students from Chelmsford, are enrolled in construction and transportation programs, 33% in programs related to health and services, and 27% in arts and technology programs. I always like to share post-high school placement. For us, this is one of the most important accountability factors that we look at, and whether or not students are successful post-graduation. We've always had traditionally high positive placement rates. It's important to note that they did change the way in which the follow-up study is collected in 2021, which we actually believe is why you see a slight shift in the way the numbers are coming out. That was the first time we collected it 6 months, and it was also, as we were heading out of the pandemic. But the numbers are climbing back up. Enrollment. Enrollment is one of the biggest factors that there is in the change in assessment. And the trend has been continuing for a couple of years. So our total enrollment has been increasing. But the interesting fact here is that the district enrollment has been increasing at a very fast pace. So we have much greater interest from our member district towns than ever before. So we're receiving many applications, and this will be the 3rd year in a row that our freshman class will be made up of completely district students, and there is no room for school choice. It's my belief that this will be basically the last year. Next year we'll probably have about two school choice students in the building, and when they graduate, we will be fully district students. We also think we might hit 800 next year, which would be the highest since the 1980s.
That's also your capacity, isn't it?
We've had, back in the 80s, the highest enrollment that I was able to find was actually in the 850s. Much higher than that is not really going to fit in our current capacity. We can talk about that too. Just a fact I always like to share, look back at the 10-year history. So Chelmsford enrollment has been climbing. You did climb again this past year with 218 students. But your highest enrollment was in 1976 with 313 students. Yes, Kathy?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So you have only so many spots, students apply.
Yes.
And then they're chosen. So this is going to be kind of a weird question, but okay, so there's 750 spots, and when people apply, is there any consideration given to what percentages from each town, or like these 700 students are evaluated individually regardless of where they live?
Yes, that's a really good question. We do not have quotas in our regional agreement, so the application process, each student is ranked based on the selective criteria, and town is not a consideration in our regional agreement.
That's a good question.
It has never been.
Okay, because I'm thinking if there's limited spots in the future.
Yes. Yes, and it is honestly a new challenge for Neshoba Tech. We have not traditionally had long wait lists. That's not been something that we've experienced. We have seen an uptick. And in this year, we have more applications than we have seats available. We did go out with admissions offers the last couple of weeks, and students were notified of first round. And now we're waiting. There's a time period where students need to let us know whether or not they plan to attend. If they do not plan to attend, then that seat is offered to the next person on the list. In a couple of weeks, there'll be the second round that will go out, and we'll continue with that process. So that will be a continuation between now and when we walk through the door in September.
Okay, so to tag on that question, say I'm interested in a particular program, but that program only has 20 spots as a freshman or whatever the number is. Could I then, but my academics or whatever, I fit the profile, I'm a good candidate, do I get offered a different program, or do I just say, no, we don't have a spot
That's
in that
another
program?
great question. So when you apply as a freshman, you are not allowed to apply into a particular program. You must explore all 18 programs.
Okay.
So you're not applying into a particular program. Once you have entered the school, then you do rank your options to get into your technical program, and there's a placement process for that as well. If you're applying as a sophomore, you would still come in and do an explore, but you don't explore all 16. You might explore 3 or 4 programs. And we have had cases where there are certain programs that are full, so a student that comes in as a sophomore would not necessarily be able to explore a full program. But we don't have that many that are full. And later in the presentation, I'll talk about some things that we're doing to expand space in those very popular programs.
So it truly is a level playing field as far as applications are concerned?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Next slide. Again, I know that I always make a big deal about enrollment, but it is what drives the assessment. So we are up 42 district students overall. Townsend this year was the town that had the largest increase in enrollment, and Chelmsford did have an increase of 6 students. Chelmsford does still continue to be the largest sending town. This slide is just a comparison slide, just to give you an idea. This is comparing Neshoba Tech to our area sending high schools. So this is not a district-wide number. This is comparing high school to high school. And again, there's a lot of information out on the news right now, and I always think it's important to show the numbers and where they are. Neshoba Tech continues to serve a population that is more than half considered students with high needs. We've always been much higher than the state average and our area high school average in serving students with disabilities and students, low-income students as well. We are starting to see an increase in students whose first language is not English, and we actually continue to work on recruitment efforts to make sure that all families have access to the information to be able to apply, and speak with those that speak their native language, so that we can make sure that they are accessing all of the information. The next slide, again, just thinking futuristically, when I'm standing here next year in FY26, I do anticipate again that I'll be telling you that we have no school choice students in the building. We know I'm thinking we're probably going to be at 800 students, and again, that there could likely be an increase in enrollment of students from Chelmsford. The information that I shared with you as we were building the budget at the Tri-Board meeting continued to be true. In fact, at Tri-Board, we were well into our creation of the budget at that point. Our biggest drivers were needs in the special education area, the addition of some additional case managers and moderate disabilities instructors to support our students, increasing the support of a board-certified behavior analyst, and paraprofessionals that are trained as registered behavior technicians to support students on the spectrum, and other special education costs. Notably, we've had to increase our special transportation costs for students that might require specialized transportation to and from school. And the rest of our drivers are the things that all school districts are dealing with: contractual increases, increases in the cost of taking care of our aging building. All of our capital projects are coming in higher than we would like. That is hopefully starting to get a bit better, but still not where we would like it to be. Next slide. We also take other things into consideration when we build our budget every year. Again, our building is old. It's over 50 years old. We do keep our building in great shape, but we do have some work to do as we move into the coming years. We also know that the formula for the required minimum contribution has been shifting with the Student Opportunity Act, and you'll see clearly how that's affecting the assessment when we get to the last couple of slides. We know annually there's a bit of uncertainty with how much reimbursement we may get for transportation. We've been fortunate the past few years, but again, when there's issues with state revenues, that's an area that we watch carefully. And we want to be really cognizant that we're not too reliant on one-time funds so that from one year to the next, we don't cause a major funding issue with one-time funds or loss of one-time funds. We also have been committed for many years to trying to have some sort of a payment to OPEB. And I know I say this every year, but thank you to Paul for serving on our OPEB trust. He's been a huge help and a huge support. Capital projects, we have been really busy. We did complete this summer the first phase of our fire suppression system upgrade. It went really well. We're gearing up for phase 2. The capital expense that you see in the FY25 budget is to do phase 2 of the fire suppression system, which would be the whole first floor in the front wing. We did replace the elevator, which was fantastic. That was about a 6 to 8 week project that we completed and all went well. Cosmetology has been a bit on the slow side, but it's getting there. We are working on a complete renovation. And then with one of the large workforce skills capital grants that we received last year, we're in the second year of implementing that grant. It was a $2.5 million state grant to expand our 2 fastest growing technical programs. So programs, electrical, again, is one where we were starting to see a wait list, and we have a small wait list for electrical right now. We're actually working on moving programs over so that we can expand the space in electrical so we can accommodate more students so they can get what they want and what they need to learn. And the next slide, we do see some pretty significant capital needs in the next 10 years. We have to keep going with that fire suppression project across the building. The good news is every time we've had one of these workforce skills capital grants, we've also managed to work in upgrading the fire suppression as part of it. So Cosmo, vet, electrical, all being taken care of as part of this project. Futuristically, we're also going to have some turnover with our van fleet. Doors are an issue. All of our exterior doors will need to be replaced at some point. And our big ticket concern right now is HVAC. So all of our HVAC is aging. All of it will need to be replaced. So we're researching different options, whether it would be performance contracting, a potential accelerated roof repair project through MSBA, or going out for some sort of a bond. So we'll be working towards that plan in the next couple of years. Next slide. I know last year when I was here, I was able to share the exciting news. We had just found out that we were the recipients of a $3.75 million workforce skills capital grant. And this grant is allowing us to add 7,000 square feet of educational space. We actually break ground in about 2 weeks, and the foundation will be going in. Hoping to be reaching out soon with some information on a groundbreaking ceremony. This will house engineering, programming, and robotics, and again, allow us to do some shifts in the building to be able to make space. When we build the budget, we always take a look at our capital stabilization. This budget request does not add to capital stabilization. We may have to have some expenses out of it for the final touches on this grant project that's underway. OPEB, we actually reduced our OPEB contribution to $100,000 this year instead of $200,000 in recognition that some of our towns are really having a difficult time this year. I always like to share per pupil expenditure comparisons. These are area vocational technical schools. Our cost per pupil continues to be on the low end. And then the next couple of slides are your bird's eye view of the budget. The largest increases again in instruction, 2,000s in instruction. Those are the special education positions. Pupil services, our transportation contract has been a significant increase along with the special transportation. There's an increase of 25,000 in the capital line. That's basically to fund the fire suppression project phase 2. And then there's a slight decrease in debt, which again, we have increased in the capital as an offset there. Next slide. From a visual perspective, if you add up instruction and pupil services and the benefits that are related to those positions, again, we continue to be spending, more than 75% of our budget on direct supports for students. The revenue for Neshoba it comes from 2 general places: non-revenue assessment or funding that comes not direct from the town. We're expecting a slight increase in Chapter 78. a slight increase of transportation reimbursement. We're using a little bit less of excess and deficiency this year. A little bit more in excess and deficiency this year.
I want to ask a question about
Yep,
that when you're at that.
sure.
So is that the entirety
It
of
is
your
not.
excess?
It is not. It's
What is your,
E&D.
yeah, what was it last year?
It is under the 5%, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's somewhere in the 600 range.
Okay.
I'm
so
going to
what
lean over to my
happens the
business
other
manager who's going to look it up.
200,000?
We have about 200,000 that we are not spending from E&D.
And what are you doing with it?
We will do nothing with it, and it will be the base for E&D in the following year in FY '27. We would not be able to use that money unless we revoted the budget.
Okay. And I want to applaud these documents. They're
Mm-hmm.
lovely, but I want to bring up a point. It's very great that we have the annual budgets
Mhm.
voted, but there is no actual. So
I can give that to you. I brought it this evening. I do have it.
Okay, great.
And it's
I'll-
also posted on our web.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sorry,
absolutely.
I wasn't looking on your web, but
Yep.
I think that that's an important thing for
Sure.
people to actually see, that this is what you budgeted and
Yep.
this is what you actually
Yep.
spent, because.
So I can just share that since I've been superintendent, we have always been under 5% on our E&D.
I know.
Yeah, and we have almost always put 100% of our E&D back into our budget. The last 2 years, we have not. We've been about 200,000 that we are not putting in E&D. And again, concerned with all of these capital projects that are going on, and if we run into any issues with these capital projects.
I cannot applaud you enough for your transparency
Sure.
and willing to provide information. It's been very refreshing and wonderful. So I don't
Sure.
need to know what those numbers are, but if you just give me the document
We
on the
can-
way out,
We can give it to you now.
Because I
Sure.
think that's interesting to look at.
Sure.
And appropriate.
Oh, 673 was our total E&D.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Next slide. So when we're talking about revenue, again, 66% of our total assessment is funded direct by the town assessments. 26% of funding comes direct from the state, 4% from transportation reimbursement, and right now it's about 4% between E&D and school choice that is funded through one-time funds. Next slide. Again, the reason why the enrollment is so important is because the enrollment is the first place we begin with the assessment, and then the percentage of the town in terms of student population. The third column that you see up on the screen, town's minimum contribution. I know this finance committee, you know this very well. This is not a number that Neshoba Tech calculates. This is a number that is given to us direct by the state. The next column is our transportation and capital costs. Our additional assessment is at 300,000, and then debt service. The next slide will show you the year over year. So this is total, all towns. You can see we had an increase of 42 district students, which led to an increase of 871,484 in our required minimum contribution. Again, that's driven by the state funding formula. You see the increase of transportation and capital. Again, an increase of 25,000 is the capital project. The remainder is transportation increases. And then debt service is slightly down. We have 2 projects that are on the books. That's the major building project between 2003 and 2005. It has a few more years and then it will be complete. We're trying to time that with the HVAC project so that, again, when we're thinking in terms of debt, we'll have debt coming off and potentially debt going on at the same time. And the next slide will show you Chelmsford specific. I'm sorry, you already moved it. That was good, thank you. So up 6 students, your overall student percentage is actually slightly decreased. The town's minimum contribution has gone up by $166,900. Transportation is slightly up, just under $30,000. The additional assessment has actually gone down, and debt has gone down. So for a total assessment increase of $177,367. My last few slides, again, thank you to our co-op employers. Many of them are here in Chelmsford. Contact us if you know of any other companies in town that are interested in hiring our students. I also wanted to take an opportunity to let you know our CTI program continues to expand. This is a completely state-funded evening program. We're running 300-hour training programs in partnership with Mass Hire. Adult students can take these programs if they are unemployed or underemployed and they're looking to career change, and it is at no cost to the participant, and it's fully funded by the state. And lastly, we do have our public services are open. Even though cosmetology is under construction, they're still in their current space, so they are still open. We hope that you come and visit. Okay, I'm glad to answer any questions that you have.
Sorry. I wanted to ask about your postgraduate program. Have you ceased to do that?
We don't have any space.
And that's, well,
So the program still exists, there is just no space.
okay. So probably that's not going to exist in the
I don't
future.
see that happening in the current climate.
Okay, thank you. I
But
was
that's why,
curious
again, that's
because,
why I think it's really important to share about our CTI programs, because although we're not able to service postgraduate students at the current time during the day, we are serving adults or high school graduates at night with these CTI programs. So it's a nice alternative.
Can you explain what that is? Because
yes.
the reason I ask is I actually shockingly recommended your graduate program to somebody, and then they said, oh, they're not taking students. So, that's
So
why I
the
asked the question.
postgraduate program is a program where when there are available seats in a technical program, a recent high school graduate from one of our district towns can apply. It's the same application process for the most part, and they would be accepted into the postgrad program. So they would integrate in with the high school students. So typically it's somebody who's 1 or 2 years out of high school. And you know, I think in the time I've been at Neshoba Tech, I mean, maybe 20 postgrads. It was the highest I had seen. It might have even been less. I'd have to go back and look. We haven't had postgrads in a couple of years, again, because we have a wait list for incoming students. So that's how the postgrad program works. The CTI program, or the Career and Technical Initiative, is not a full Chapter 74 program. So they're not getting, 900 or 1,000 plus hours in a technical program. They're getting about 300 hours. So it's not a full Chapter 74 program. It's really basic training in a particular industry, and then partnership and support and finding a job placement. And we don't have it in all 18 of our programs. We only have it in a handful of programs right now
Once you have a
that are listed up on the screen.
And do the students have to pay for that?
No, it
Because
is free.
students,
It is,
Well, the adults, the CTI
the C-
participants.
CTI program is funded by the state, direct by the state. It's a grant.
You go through unemployment.
Oh, well, I was just asking. Like,
No.
So we do write grants for the CTI, and we have to be accepted into the CTI program. It fully funds the staff member. It fully funds all of the equipment, all of the curriculum, the textbooks. It funds everything. In fact, it even helps fund, facility costs.
that's great. Do you have to be unemployed to do that? You
No,
just can't
it's
be someone
it's
who-
unemployed or underemployed. So if it's somebody looking to switch careers or upscale training to a new career, they would be qualified as well. They would work direct with Mass Hire. If they contact us, we can help put them into touch with the folks that would vet them into the program.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I believe it's because our employment level is so low in Massachusetts that they have to get people who are maybe employed, say, in retail, to up their game because they don't have, I know from my husband, disclosure, my husband is on the school committee. Lawrence McDonald on the finance nest, so I've seen all this. Because he's practiced the budget saying for town meeting to me, is that you don't have any juniors in the building in certain fields because they are on co-op as soon as they can get there.
That is true.
Because the employers are like knocking on the door like, got a machinist? So that's one of the reasons why CNC machine operator is part of that, because there is such a demand.
High need.
So that the state is very wants to have these places.
There are specific programs, there are only specific programs that they are allowing applications for CTI. So not every one of our technical programs is eligible to have an evening CTI program.
The reason I bring it up is because like I said, I suggested the graduate program to somebody.
Have them reach out,
shockingly.
have
And,
them email me.
Yeah, and, but that's also good to know that there is this other thing that
I
exists
can-
for people. Sounds like a great
I can put them in touch with Miss O'Sullivan, who runs the program, and they can help this person get the information they need to join.
Dr. Pigeon, your ability to get grants is impressive. I'd like to know who does your grant writing.
It's a great question. So Gabriella White, our curriculum director, is the primary grants writer in our school, but she works in collaboration with anyone that's involved in the particular grant application. So she's an amazing grant writer, but she leans on the instructors in the programs because they give her all the background on the equipment needs and the industry needs and the labor needs. Our vocational coordinator also participates. Truly a team collaborative effort. And my favorite part is when possible, we invite the students to participate. In terms of that very large grant that we received, the $3.75 million grant, the students actually supported us in engineering with doing renderings of a potential building to attach to the application.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again for a fantastic presentation.
Thanks.
Moving right along our agenda, we have a review of the fiscal year 25 budget for the Veterans Agent. With us this evening is Regina Jackson, our Veterans Agent.
Good evening, and thank you for having me for our fiscal year 25 budget. I'd just like to kind of recap what the Veterans Office does. The mission of our office is to provide financial and medical assistance to needy veterans in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 115. So Chapter 115 was actually established after the Civil War to assist veterans in each community so they wouldn't, it's basically a public assistance program, so it would be a little separate from public welfare. So every city and town in Massachusetts has a veteran service officer. So in our office, we administer the Chapter 115 program, which again is a short-term temporary public assistance program, and the criteria for it, the rules for it, everything is established by the State Executive Office of Veteran Services, which as of a year ago is a cabinet-level position. So a lot has changed at the state level with the program, but more so with veterans benefits, state veterans benefits. So the goal of our office has been pretty consistent. We provide veterans in Chelmsford with assistance, not just with Chapter 115, but basically with any veterans' questions or benefits that they may be eligible for. And part of the eligibility criteria to receive Chapter 115 assistance is to apply for any and all federal benefits that you may be eligible for, and that's everything. So you have to, we have to make sure that the veteran is, if they're eligible for VA comp, VA pension, the Social Security, SSI, SSDI, unemployment, employment, whatever they're eligible for. So Chapter 115 is really just it's a safety net. So some of the other goals of the office, of course, is to maintain the maximum reimbursement. So whatever we pay out for the Chapter 115 program, and if we follow all the rules, which we do, and everything is approved, which it is, we will get 75% back. So in the budget, where it says for the line item for veterans benefits, it'll say $150,000, but actually we kind of changed it for upcoming fiscal year. We went down to $140,000 because I think that's going to be more reasonable. And after talking with the town manager and the finance director, that to me that is a very reasonable request, or a very reasonable number. And the reason I think that is because the actual numbers of recipients for the 115 program has declined, but that's statewide. So the number of veterans and our family members, because sometimes I can help a spouse with an elderly surviving spouse with some medical payments. We can pay some co-pays, etc. But the actual numbers of eligible veterans have declined, and I think it's probably because, and it's statewide, it's not just us. It's not just us. It's probably because they haven't changed the criteria as far as the dollar amount. I mean, you have to be very needy to be eligible and to actually get a monetary benefit every month from us, from the town.
Is that a federal law or is that a state law about
No,
the financial requirements?
No, all the anything to do with Chapter 15 is strictly state. It's an agreement between the state and the city and town. So the state makes the rules, the state sets the eligibility, everything's the state. But the whole idea is, in order to get this, you have to apply for any federal benefits. So it's temporary in the sense that if somebody comes on, so if I have an unemployed veteran that comes on, we have to work with mass hire. It's required, have to do job searches, et cetera, because the whole idea is this is temporary.
Right.
This is, unemployment's going to come through, or employment's going to come through, or your VA comp claim is going to come through. So it's strictly state. So the state, and I think since the state has changed to an executive office, and things are really changing as far as the administration of it and the way it's going, they just haven't yet changed the actual eligibility dollar amount.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and they may not, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. So, but the important point through all that was we get 75% back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a win-win. It is a win-win because, the veteran or the community member who really, really needs it is going to get it, but it's not all financed by the town.
Mm-hmm. And that track's typically a year behind, so it's submitted a year
Correct.
behind.
So as far as reimbursement, so the way it works is, okay, so currently, when I wrote this, I said we have 15 to 18 active 115 cases. That's about right. So it's really 15 right now, because I had one come on in January, but got him off in February, and then one again came on in March. So but that's like running. So the amount, and then it is adjusted by the COLA every year. So for instance, the first quarter of fiscal year 2024, which was July, August, and September 2023. So we paid out an average of $8,500 a month to about 15 or so recipients. So what happens is 75% of that will be reimbursed to the town. So the reimbursement runs a year, 12 to 14 months behind. So, and is paid back on a quarterly basis. So our last reimbursement was in October of 2023 for $27,058. And that was 75% of the benefits we paid out for July, August, September 2022.
Okay.
So we'll get something probably this month for the reimbursement for January, February, March 2023. So it's pretty consistent, 1 year behind, and 75% of what is authorized.
Are you guaranteed 100% reimbursement?
Never. The loss is 75%.
75
You
max.
keep.
I understand, but of what you expect to get back. So if you're getting back 75%,
100% of that 75%.
the 100% of the 75.
Oh, no, no. Every month we have to submit the requests and authorizations in the state. We deal with authorizers, and if they think that maybe we shouldn't have paid it out or whatnot, they'll deny it. But we have a really good relationship with our authorizers, and they change the rules, but we change with them. So we've been really consistent. The whole time I've been here, we've gotten 75% back.
Good. Thank
So it's unusual. They do. There are some cities and towns that they don't administer the 115 program the way that the state says to, and they don't get it back, and they take it off the cherry sheet. That's what they say. They take. Well, anyways, that's not our problem. So we will get it back.
You do a very good job of tracking
You
that.
do.
And getting that
You
into
do a
the
great
state.
job
Oh, yeah.
helping people and doing well for the town as well.
Yeah, thank you. So that's the money part of it. So when you look at the budget, it's the 150,000, but now we'll go 140 for next fiscal year because that. But along with the 115, the monthly benefit for those 15 or so veterans. We also pay for the flags, the Memorial Day flags for our 6 public cemeteries, et cetera, et cetera. We can get 75% back of that, too, if we pay through here. So we do. So Dave from the cemetery, he orders them, I pay for them. And then also a funeral. We have to pay indigent veterans in the community that end up being eligible. That's all we don't usually have too many, but that's $4,000. So we always need a little wiggle room in the budget just in case, because you don't know, obviously. You just don't know. We didn't have one this last year, but we had one the prior year. So that's the money part, that's the state part. But then I just have to tell you that the office also, I do a lot of federal claims, which that's where you want. That's where the money is. That's where the benefits are. So each claim is unique to the veteran or the surviving family member. And the updated VA impact snapshot, which was actually, it's from 2022 because it's federal. VA, they're a little behind. But it shows
Shocking.
it shows how significant the VA federal benefits are. So in 2022, the amount paid out to 497 veterans and/or surviving family members was $8,282,824. So that's federal money, VA federal money from claims coming into the community. So that's the big part. That's where you really want to concentrate. That's the money. That's the best benefit. And then, I don't know how much you want me to, with the 75%, in addition to the 115 program and the VA benefits, which is kind of key, we work a lot with the state Executive Office of Veteran Services, and they're actually kind of they're going through like a rebirth or a birth, and they have, the last month or so, you might have read that there's this whole new initiative with the governor and with the John Santiago, who is the new commissioner or the secretary of the EOVS, about putting more resources into veterans housing, homeless veterans housing. So that's kind of a new statewide initiative. But then also, we work a lot with regional veteran support agencies and organizations. The Merrimack Valley, we have a Merrimack Valley Veterans Collaborative, and that's we work with a lot of different agencies that will touch into veterans' lives. The Northeast Mass Veteran Service Organizations, MVSOA, Age Span, the Bedford VA, and the Lowell Vet Center, which are 2 totally separate entities. And then, of course, with the Merrimack Valley Vietnam Veterans, American Legion Post 313, and all the town departments. Like when Donna was up here, we work with the Housing Authority, Police Department, Board of Health, assessors. The town is extremely supportive of our veteran population. And we do thank town manager for that. And all the other department heads. They are. We work well together. The assessors, because another component is the veterans tax exemption.
Correct.
So if you have a veteran with a service-connected disability of 10% to 90%, they can get all things, if they own and occupy, et cetera, they can get $400 off their real estate tax for the fiscal year. And then if you have a veteran in the community with 100% service-connected disability, you can get a tax exemption, but there's several other benefits you can get through the state, through the Veterans Office. You just have to kind of let people know about them. So, and then, of course, we work with the senior center. And then our community services, Jen, I work with her quite a bit, too. Different situations. So, but for the money part, though, that's pretty much, it's not a lot, but it is a lot. It is a lot. And the important thing to always remember is we do get 75% back.
Any questions?
Just yay?
Yay.
Thank you for all you do,
Well,
really.
I appreciate that, but I do have to tell you, the town is very supportive, and it makes it so much easier for everybody.
Thank you very much,
Thanks.
Regina.
Thank you.
Regina.
Thank you.
All right. That is the end of our presentations for this evening. Let's discuss briefly the hearing and Springtown meeting warrant article schedule.
Yep.
Pull that up. All right, so we've had this presentation this evening. Next week, we have the Community Preservation Fund. Linda is coming in, or are you presenting?
I've been in email communication with her, and I told her she was on, so.
Okay, fair enough. Chief Spence will be here next week to give the police department budget overview. Then we have the planning board. I know Evan Belansky will be here with the MBTA zoning article, and just finalizing if Ms. Deschel will be in for her article regarding that same issue. So with that, and given the fact that although they are important budgets and important things to talk about, I don't imagine them being that long of a period of time to review. I think next week we'll be able to vote. Does anyone disagree?
Plan.
I think that's
Let's
reasonable.
plan for that.
Yeah.
What we
Start
wanna
at
do.
6:30?
Yeah.
Start at 6:30, just like we have been. I know in the past, prior to COVID, we used to start at 7:30, so that with the 6:30 start time, we've got a little bit more leeway to not go to, midnight voting. So we'll plan on next week voting, and that will give us a little breathing room to get the book together, to get the letter together, and to get everything published and ready for the pre-town meeting that's at the senior center the week prior to, the Wednesday prior to town meeting, which starts April 30th. All right. Any public comment? Seeing none from the audience, and I'm not seeing anything in the Zoom room. And there's no press, and eventually I may even take that off the agenda. It's been a long time since we've had press here.
Long time since anybody's had any press anywhere.
That's true.
This press?
I will,
Go to the press
Making a
cafe.
motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn, yes. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
See you next week.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.